Yes, I am going ahead and starting this just a few minutes early to give people a moment to come on in. And because we got that lag time between StreamYard and then to actually pop up on YouTube. So we'll give everybody a few moments to come on in. Come on in. Yes, yes, yes. We are going to dive into it here. Got a couple of quick messages from the Heavenly Father for you also. They revealed some things to me. So we're going to dive into that as well. So, all right. So as everybody comes on in, if you want to, let's get some participation going. Go ahead and put it down there in the chat where you are tuning in from. Now, if you're not comfortable telling us, the state, city, or exact jurisdiction, you could just say the country. Like for myself, I am in the United States. So there you go. And if you catch this on the replay, then you can leave your country of residence in the comments so that we can see, because brothers and sisters in Christ, we are far and wide. We're all over the world. And it is a pleasure to discover you all. It just, yeah, we wouldn't know that when we were underneath that narcissistic matrix bubble. Yes. Oh, Milky Way. Good one. Yes. Hello. I like that. Okay, that was funny. We gotta love the alchemist humor, you all. Oh yes, we do. Yeah, that's always fun. But anyway, so yes, yeah, I know where you're from. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to dive into the fellow warrior's testimony here with some more red flags, okay, on the sociopathic and psychopathic behaviors of narcissistic abusers. So hello. Welcome back to another live stream on the channel where healing and spiritual growth are front and center. So this live shout out, just going to go to all of you warriors and survivors. And we are still rooting for you. Even when you don't think anyone is cheering for you, just know that we are, because many of us who are constant prayer, you all are always in our prayers, okay? Always. And we just want you to remember that you're not alone. We start to learn more about that as we uncover more about narcissism and the spiritual truth behind it, and exactly what it's all designed to do. But real quick, God wants me to give you all a message that he put on my spirit to get out there to you today, that this is, hello, sunshine, hello, and that this is the cycle, okay? This cycle of abuse, it stops with you, okay? It stops with us. God said, my child, I woke you up. It stops now. It stops. And it stops by all of us coming together, raising that awareness, sharing the red flags that we learn, and we are going to break the cycle together. All right, so God wanted me to tell you all that, and amen, hallelujah. Let's say thank you, Heavenly Father, because he's helping everybody break the cycle. And by doing so, exposing these red flags, because it's an uncanny thing that, as I was reading through the fellow warrior's testimony, and I let him know this too, I was like, oh my gosh, my eyes were just like popping open. I was like, he was taking me through some similar things, a parallel, okay, between what I had experienced also, and many others are sharing their experience. It's just like, okay, because it goes back to a very early thing for all of us in the very beginning. We wanted to know where that narcissistic playbook was. And it's just like, where do they get this stuff? And then we realized later on it's on a societal level, and that's where they're learning it from. And it's been normalized, so that's why they continue to do it. And also, never forget, because the enemy has no new tricks. So you all, if you leave questions in the comments and I don't get to them, just know that on the replay, you can go ahead and put the comment in the comment section on the replay, and I'll get to it then. Because I just want to go ahead. I want to go through all of these And fellow warrior, if I leave something out, let me know, okay? And I will go make sure to mention it, okay? Because there's so much involved in all of this. And first, to get started, I want to read from the textbook, okay? This is my criminal psychology textbook. And I want to read to you what the worldview definition of a psychopath is, because it's true, all right? It's true, all of it. And this is part of where science and the Bible meet, okay? It's a little part of that. But what they say, the psychopath, okay, is these individuals are characterized by a completely egocentric worldview, true, lack of empathy for others, craving for immediate gratification, poor frustration tolerance, excessive need for stimulation and excitement, attention seeking, yes, poor planning and goal direction, an impulsive and non-reflective cognitive style, relative imperviousness to punishment. In other words, punishment does not faze these types at all. That's why they continue to get away with it, because they're quite intimidating too. Poor performance in academics and employment, the use of cunning, conning, and intimidation to get what they want from people, and complete lack of remorse or compassion. Okay, now we all know by now that narcissistic abusers fit that pretty well, don't they? Yes. Now, along with all of that, we know the cycle starts with love bombing, right? Oh gosh, yes, we all missed that. Okay, until we got where we got to get. We woke, God wakes us up and says, wait a minute, because it's not normal. And I don't know about y'all, but I know for me, it came to a point where that excessive flattery and stuff just started not sitting right. It's like, yo, that's getting a bit uncomfortable. It's a bit too much. No one's that nice. I mean, I kid you not. But anyhow, all right, the warrior's testimony, the timeline is about 4 to 5 months. Because one thing we do learn, especially after you've experienced the horrific narcissistic abuse on the individual level by someone you dated, someone you were married to, or even just roommates, okay? Because let's face it, everyone, it's not just a significant other who is a sociopath or a psychopath, all right? It's not, it can be a neighbor. And in this warrior's case, that's exactly what we're dealing with, a neighbor. Now, the reason that this warrior was able to start picking up on these red flags is because already experienced a lot of it on the individual level with an intimate partner, so to speak, okay? So once that happens, it's like God's opening your eyes, and you really start to see more and more, and you start to recognize the pattern. That's the big thing right there. Because the pattern never changes. Because the enemy doesn't have any new tricks. That's why the pattern never changes. And they often will circle. This one right here, the neighbor did a full circle in that 4 to 5 months. I mean, it's just full back around. And they do. The reason we were able to determine he was definitely a psychopath type of narcissistic abuser, because he did exactly that and came full circle around at about that 5 month mark, and just tried to start all over again as if nothing in the last 5 months had ever happened. It was like, well, there you go. And that's how they are. They just don't, it is creepy though too. All right, so let's go through this. All right, here's what happened. In the beginning, as always, the neighbor invited the warrior over to cookouts, okay, and parties per se. The warrior was being lured in via food love bombs. Yes, we learn how they love to love bomb with food. Okay, it isn't just, flattering words or any other kind of gifts or, whatever. A lot of times they start with food. Okay, and that's exactly what was happening here. And drink too, by the way. And the neighbor did that to this warrior also with drink. It was some kind of a tea, and that's just what they do. So the food and drink are the manipulator's favorite trick to make others think they are the giving type. Okay, that's the trick. is to make you think that, oh, they're nice people, they're just average, ordinary folk like us and stuff like that. The neighbors showed that they had no boundary and that they don't listen. That is the key right there that we all learn going through the narcissistic abuse situation. And it doesn't matter with who, is that you're speaking something very logically, right? You're reasoning, logic, you're saying stuff that makes sense, and they hear you, right? They do, and you're telling them, okay, look, especially when, remember in the beginning, they're always trying to find your likes and your dislikes. And the reason they do that is not just to use as ammunition, but also to see if they can break your boundary. Because let's face it, when you say, in this warrior's case, it was a method of exercising, okay? He likes to run. The neighbor wanted to walk. So it was a conflict, okay, of interest there between we all have preferred methods, okay? Even myself, I'm a speed walker and I do the Insanity Max. So that's just my preferred workout style. We all have them for those of us that do exercise. And so what this neighbor did was, it was his trying to get control of the warrior's method of exercise, trying to get control of the warrior's way of living, the lifestyle, so to speak, in a very creepy way, okay? And the warrior had already told this neighbor their preferred method to working out, but that's where that neighbor's like heard it, he heard it, but he wasn't listening. And they do that on purpose, okay? That's another way that they try to get under your skin and get you frustrated, all the time. So what the neighbor did was kept pestering the warrior to go on a different quest for a workout, which was a walk. And he would do it over and over again. And it's that's that control, that clinginess, that neediness, that control. They're trying to get control over what the warrior was doing. So during all of this, it was not just that, but during it was always that way too nice, that saccharine sweetness, if you will. Yes, guys can do it too, just as much as the females do it. It's just the tone might be a little bit different, but it is still a saccharine sweetness, and it's just that just screams fake. But you learn that as you continue to go, and you're like, oh, something isn't jiving here. So then, here's how the neighbor was pestering this warrior about what time the warrior would get home, like all the time. I mean, it was just no matter what. So he was like, ask the warrior, okay, what you up to? The warrior would tell him, okay, well, this is what I've got on the agenda. And then the neighbor says, okay, so what time are you going to come? What time will you be home? And just constantly needing to know. And what that is, okay, that is the narcissistic psychopath. Okay, that is the psychopath's way of trying to, it is stalking, yeah, but it's also the psychopath's way of trying to get some sort of a predictable schedule on the target, okay? They want to know what your routine is, okay? They want to know when you're coming and they want to know when you're going. It's just, it's that part of that control that they need to have. And it is very creepy, by the way. Oh my goodness. And so no matter what, anything the warrior would tell the neighbor that they were busy doing, or if they had company, or they were going to visit someone else, especially now, whenever the warrior would tell the neighbor that they were going to visit someone else, then the neighbor would text a little more frequently. It's that attention seeking, right? That neighbor got upset. And oftentimes when they respond with an, oh, okay, that's classic of narcissistic abusers. And I would tell you in person, when they do that, it's their tone shift. It goes, oh, okay. Yeah, but it's just, it's eerie. And they'll do that after you've said, okay, no, look, I've got this plan. This is what I've got to do. And they get frustrated because, remember, that's taking the attention away from them, and they don't like it. And so the tone, so if they send it in a text, you now know what that tone is. They're not happy about it at all, because they want your attention. They want to have you all to themselves. That possession, that possessive. That's crazy. So now, okay. Yeah, it's trying to learn your time pattern, if you will. Okay, your schedule, your routine, the warrior's routine. Wanted to know. And so no matter what time, no matter what the warrior would tell the neighbor, he would always want to know what time the warrior would be available to go for a walk. Okay, via it's just for a walk. No matter, I mean, it was just like it didn't matter. Whatever it is, the warrior was like, no, I got to go do this. The neighbor would still pester and ask, well, what time will you be home? What time can you come home? What time can you go for a walk? I mean, it's just that was a constant thing through the whole, I would say about the first 4 months, I believe that would be correct, because he had to back off there a little bit. All right. And then we'll get to how this psychopath went full circle. All right. So now, as a nice guy, the warrior offered the neighbor a chance to go to a sporting event. All right. Here's classic manipulation 101 that the neighbor pulled. All right, so he played the usual game of roundabout, okay, circular talk. That's another form of the circular talk that they use, a roundabout, to get the warrior to chase their tail. Okay, in other words, the warrior had to find someone to go in order to be able to get these tickets. So it was just, and the neighbor knew this, okay, that psychopath knew it. And so that's a classic tactic that they use when a manipulator is trying to get out of having to pay for something. They always try to use the circular game to get out of paying for something. All right, much like we who have been in customer service know that many like to trick a business into giving them something for free, aka the scarcity mindset. All right, so there was a lot of back and forth over that sporting event too. All right, the neighbor made excuses for not being able to make it at the last minute. Y'all want to remember something here. Anytime someone makes a commitment and then backs out at the last minute, you want to use proper discernment with that, because as always, emergencies and things do happen. So it's going to depend on the circumstance. But if you know you're dealing with a manipulator, you'll know. Okay, it's just something could be like, wait a minute. Because they'll tell you one thing and then do another if all the actions not matching words. And that's exactly what this neighbor did here. Is the neighbor claimed to have to work, all right, but then it kept, there were 3 or 4 different stories that came along with that, having to work to get out of going to the sporting event. And then also, okay, here's the other thing this manipulator did, the psychopath. All right, the neighbor asked the warrior, okay, to send pics of the sporting event to show their significant other as proof that they were at the event when the neighbor was not. And so that always should make everyone go, wait a second, because the significant other happened to have been on the phone while these two were discussing the sporting event, talking about how it might be cold or whatever. And so the significant other of the neighbor was out of town at the time. Okay, and one thing we know about psychopaths, the sociopaths, all the narcissistic abusers is that they do cheat, and the cheating is not always physical either. So there's a lot of shadiness with that right there, asking someone to send you pictures. And he admitted, the neighbor told him that so I can show my significant other that I was there when they weren't there. So that's like, wait a minute, okay? So that's not only another clue that he's a cheater and a liar, but he was trying to use the warrior as a third party to secure their current relationship. Okay, he was trying to get the warrior to send those pictures so that he could keep trying to pretend or carry out the facade for his significant other. All right, so he could keep up good, I guess you could call it keeping a good face with the significant other. And so, basically trying to get the warrior to help him lie. That's basically it. All right. And what was most creepy with his neighbor is when they constantly asked the warrior what time to get home over and over again. I would tell you, it happened again throughout this whole 4 to 5 months. Like, wow. So this is also very parallel to clues we all miss with a potential abuser who may very well be a psychopath or a sociopath also. And a lot of the neighbor's behaviors reminded me of the ex-psychopath roommate. I will tell you that, boy. All right, so it took 2 months for this neighbor to appear. 2 months, all right, for this neighbor to appear as if they understood the warrior was not going to be controlled. Yet, it didn't take long for the neighbor to start up again with the what time. So they could embark on a walk, all right? Anytime the warrior would let this neighbor know they were out of town or doing something with someone else, the neighbor would respond with that, oh, okay, like I spoke about, and then turn right about and ask, what time you get home? Classic. Every once in a while, the warrior would agree to go on the walk. After all, he is not above being kind, right? He's trying to, I guess it's kind of a way we all like to try to keep the peace. We don't want to stir up anything. All right, they do. We don't. That's just empaths are not like that. So now here's where it gets a little bit more dicey. All right, so the neighbor would have their stepchild go along who would slow down the walk. And, for many of us empaths, we're swift. Okay, we move quick. We like to move quick. God hastens us. It's just, that's how we are. We get stuff done. And again, we have our preferred method, but a lot of things don't come that complicated to us. And a lot of times, never forget these manipulators, these psychopaths, sociopaths, the abusers, they're oftentimes mainly out to try and just slow us down. Okay. They always want to slow us down. It's part of how they trick us in, they trick us into holding ourselves back. All right, that's a big part of it right there. So they want to try to hold us back from reaching any of our true potential. That's a big thing. The enemy does not want God's chosen to reach their true potential. So always keep that in mind. If you're moving along, you're moving right along, and things are falling in place, and you're just doing your thing and minding your business, and if someone comes along and they try to slow you down, I would say, okay, wait a minute. That's just something to keep in mind. There's your tip on that one. So anyway, so the kid would slow it down, and then there was a near miss biking event. All right, this is where the psychopath behavior comes out. All right, the neighbor sabotaged the bike. Okay, we were able to conclude that. In fact, I caught it, and the warrior had another acquaintance who also caught on to the fact that the neighbor had sabotaged his bike to where it just malfunctioned during the ride. And it was just like, okay. So the warrior was telling the neighbor several times during that ride that the bike was not operating correctly. And the neighbor didn't care. Okay. It's like the neighbor just kept saying this, making excuses. That's what they do, especially when they know that they're the ones that tampered with it. All right. The psychopath, sociopath. Now, here's the thing. This is where they kind of overlap. All right. A lot of these narcissistic abusers, when their target pretty much stops responding or starts drawing away and going no contact, that's when their sociopathic and psychopathic tendencies will come out, because they don't like that. And so there's an overlap there, because what this neighbor did was a little sociopathic and psychopathic, because he was trying to cause harm to the warrior, right, by putting him on a defective bike, if you will, that the neighbor themselves is sabotaged on purpose. And they do this. All right. And I will tell you, the ex-psychopath roommate sabotaged a lot of things in that house while I was there on purpose. And also, let's not forget the other side of it too. If they do it to something, okay, especially in the workplace, like they'll break something on purpose and then turn around to fix it because they got to play hero. So there's always that aspect in it as well. And all of them do it, okay, to some degree or another. But we now know there is an overlap between sociopathic and psychopathic tendency in the narcissistic abuser, who happens to be one or the other, or a little bit of both, all right, because that's very, very common, especially as they get older. All right, and I know that this neighbor was not particularly necessarily older, but was aging, okay? So keep that in mind too. That's why we say they get worse as they age. If they have not entered repentance, okay, if they have not been saved and they don't enter repentance, then they are going to get worse. Okay, remember, they're going to wax old as doth a garment. okay, on their way to perishing. So that's how that goes. So now it's also important to mention that that's what I was getting to next, was that bike incident occurred right after the warriors started limiting contact. Okay, stopped responding so much, and just started really trying to pull away. And remember, these narcissistic abusers, psychopath or sociopath, whatever, when they start to sense their target pulling away, that's when their ugly will really start to show. So if whenever this narcissistic sociopath or psychopath doesn't get the attention they crave, they'll resort to dangerous behaviors. And that can be, like tampering with the bike. They'll also tamper with your food and other things. They want to try to see if they can punish. That's what they're doing. Whenever they do that, they're trying to punish the target for absolutely no reason. That's classic. Okay, so the neighbor was trying to punish this warrior, for limiting contact and, and trying to get some of his inner peace back. He's like, okay, had enough of this. And so they wanted to do that and was hoping that the neighbor wanted the warrior to suffer some great ailment from the event. All right. And let's remember, this also stems from because the warrior had already admitted to this neighbor about a past injury from that same particular method, okay, from biking. If I misunderstand that, fellow warrior, please hop in and correct me. But that's how I understood it, was that when the warrior admitted to the neighbor, he already had somewhat of a small ailment. It wasn't not major, but that it stems from a biking incident from way back. And so you notice how the neighbor picked that particular thing to try and make it worse. And that is psychopathic and sociopathic as well. And that's their wicked mind. It is crazy making. But we're all thankful that God's grace was on the warrior and the warrior was not hurt. So we thank him for that. All right. So now the warrior later learns from a biking expert that the only way that device could have done that, being the malfunction, like during the ride, it just completely froze up. Everything just froze up. All right. And said that the only way that would have happened is if it was not properly taken care of. Bingo. That was just further confirmation that the neighbor definitely tampered with it, sabotaged it on purpose. And that's just an unfortunate thing, but they do it. All right, so then we get into some additional aftermath stuff because this warrior has started going no contact. See, remember, when you start going no contact, that's when you'll start to really experience some aftermath stuff, that even more crazy making. All right, so the warrior went out on a walk alone. Okay, even though it was not a workout per se. It was just wanting to get out into nature, and we all get it, right? Okay. Oh no. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and share this up on the screen here. Okay. He had a lot of bikes. Okay. Thank you. All right. Had a lot of bikes that he worked on. That's right. Okay. There you go. Yes, see, and so that shows that he was mechanically inclined. I remember that as well. And so we always want to keep in mind that a lot of these psychopaths, the narcissistic abusers, they will obtain specific skill, whether it be mechanical, electrical. See, the ex-psychopath roommate, in my case, it was electrical, not so much mechanical. But in this warrior's case, it was mechanical. Okay, so they always, because those are things that can be used for malicious. I mean, everything in this world can be used for malicious reasons, but I'm talking about things that could cause the most harm. We always want to keep that in mind. And so when these type obtain enough skill to do something like that, they'll know how to break it and fix it. Okay, that's where that comes from. They'll know how to break it and fix it. And again, that's the other side of them trying to play hero and villain at the same time. But when the warrior went on that walk alone into the wilderness where there's no one around for hundreds of feet, and the warrior did not take the phone with them, okay? Did not take the phone. It's just nothing. Just him and God and nature, okay? Just talking things out and trying to make sense of it all. All right. So when the warrior was talking out loud, and anytime we do that, remember, we're talking to God. And so we're saying some things that no one could possibly, nobody was within earshot. Okay. I mean, we're talking like 500 yards or so, good distance, where if you're just talking in your regular voice, nobody around could have possibly heard. And the one thing he had said, he was kind of making light of it. I mean, we all got to find the humor in it too, because if we don't, it can get it too stressful. So the warrior was finding some humor in it and was thinking maybe he would try to mess back and say a certain phrase, but then realized, no, that's not a good idea. So that's the Holy Spirit saying that you don't really want to do that. But, all right, it's a nice thought. It was funny, by the way. Okay, that was funny. I got a good chuckle out of that one. But the warrior gets home, right? Okay, remember, no phone with him or anything. And then he finds a text message from an unknown number with that very phrase that he was joking about, that very phrase that the warrior stated while on that journey. Ding, 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 ding. So that perked the radar. And the intuition was like, wait a second. So now, okay, this ties to the video that I did on how the enemy cannot read our mind. Okay, remember that. So I think it's the one, it's called the Be Careful When Speaking, because the devil cannot read our minds at all. The only way the devil knows what we're doing or what if we're thinking out loud, the only way is if there's a human host that has demon spirits attached to them nearby. Okay, that's the only way that the enemy could even know. So that's like, now we put all of our information out there so the enemy knows what we know and stuff like that. But otherwise, our alone thought and our talk with God with nobody else around, the enemy does not know. So there had to be some kind of a device that got slipped, maybe in a jacket pocket or somewhere in a piece of clothing, because after further reflection, realized that the warrior this neighbor did not have physical access to anything, but during a walk or whatever. Remember, con men are real good pocket pickers. Yes, they are. So it could have very well slipped just a cheap little, and because you can actually obtain really cheap little like Bluetooth listening devices. You can even from Walmart. Okay, and that's probably what it was. All right, there, fellow warriors. That's probably what it was. And so they took, the warrior took care of that. So that that sparked the spiritual radar when you stop and think about it. When it's like, wait a minute, there's no one else around to hear. All right. So anyway, so we took all of that he could think of. Okay. Took all the clothing that he could think of that this neighbor could possibly have put a little device in. Because one thing we learned about those little tiny, it's like a bug, if you will, anything electrical, that if you throw it through the washer and then through the dryer for a period of time, it destroys it. So that's what happened here. So anything that has, that listening capability like that, it's going to get destroyed by water and then heat, extreme one, get it wet. It's electrical, get it wet, and then you fry it basically in the dryer. So, all right, so that's what happened there. So it's like, okay, wait a minute. All right, so here we go. Now, the warrior is just going about their business, and the neighbor sends a text. We still on for whatever event it was at a certain time. Now, this was during the war. It's still during, I want to say this is probably, getting closer to the, 4-month mark or so, 3 to 4 month mark, or somewhere in there. And it's just like the warrior was like, wait a second. He's like, he knew instinctively that they had not set up any time or agreement to any event or meeting. So the warrior did the right thing and didn't respond. Because wait a minute. Because that right there was a trick. Okay, the neighbor was trying to trick the warrior into using cognitive dissonance. Basically, that's how they do it. It's trying to trick and guilt trip. 2 weeks before cutoff. Okay, thank you for that correction. Okay. Before you went complete. No, okay. All right, gotcha. Yep. Okay, so see, that's where the crazy making towards the end, as you're trying, when they know eventually you are going to go 100% cut off, They know it. So that's why they start to get more crazy making. They're trying to get in here. And so when he did that with this whole event thing, no, and the warrior knew they hadn't discussed that, because after all, the warrior was limiting contact anyway. So there was no reason to be trying to schedule anything, right? So you would know. And so that's what he was trying to do, was trick the warrior into starting to doubt, self-doubt, and go, wait, did I forget something? That trying to get them to think, and it's like, nah, no, we're not playing. So luckily, the warrior saw through that. So kudos, all right, because that's a big red flag right there. And when they're trying to convince you that you guys set something up that you didn't set up, okay. And so during the latter months, okay, we're getting now we're getting closer into the latter part of all of this crazy making. Now, a mutual friend on Facebook, okay, a mutual friend of the warrior and the neighbor, all right, and we all know about flying monkeys now, all right, so they messaged the warrior and did what all flying monkeys do. Okay, they attempted to trick the warrior into divulging information about how they were doing by telling the warrior that the neighbor was concerned and wanted to know if the warrior was okay. So luckily, again, our fellow warrior saw through that and did not acknowledge it and did not give that flying monkey any, satisfaction with that. So good job on that as well. So the psychopath neighbor also said the same thing all narc abusers say when we start to go no contact. Are you mad at me? Are you okay? Did I do something to upset you? And this neighbor did the exact same thing to this warrior, trying to figure out. It's all part of that mental gymnastics that they like to play. And every single one of them will do this. And so this neighbor, it's got both sociopathic and psychopathic characteristics, okay? And the warrior did notice, all right, after further reflection, did notice that awkward posture and strange stare or gaze, if you will. And I mentioned that in the previous video on that urgent message one, because it's a good reminder, because I have remembered that the case study did the same thing. And I now have a bit of a definition. Let's see if I can get this right. And I know you'll let me know that they have this. Okay, it's not the posture that they have. It is awkward, but it's more like a rigid. Okay, it's not like, a haughty one or anything like that, but it's a very rigid, almost like they're a statue. Okay, does that sound about right? Okay, they have that statue where they're not moving at all, and their eyes are staring straight ahead, and they got that glaze over. And so that's indicative of the Jezebel spirit. So we now have a way to visualize that, but it is almost like a statue, very rigid posture, like they're nailed to wherever it is they're standing, and no movement as they're staring straight ahead at probably nothing, and all that wickedness going through their mind. So, okay. All right. Okay, good. I was wondering, because I was trying in my mind going, I got to figure out a way to describe it so that others can know what they're looking at. And so, so it's very rigid, statue-like. Okay. So now here we go. We're like towards the final months, right? The warrior's like, all right, I've had enough. He's going 100% no contact, like full cutoff, right? Forgive me for laughing. I know this is not funny, but it's so classic. This is that full circle back. All right. The psychopath neighbor, okay, after all of that crazy making, okay, after all of it, turns right around and acts as if none of that happened. All right. So sends a text message to the warrior again, asking the warrior if they were walking outside lately. See, that's how the neighbor was going to try to start up again with trying to get this warrior to go on a walk again. That I will have to say that's perhaps the creepiest of all when they do that. It's like, what now? So this is how they illustrate. That's how they illustrate they have zero conscience. Okay, which is also the definition of a psychopath. And so they always circle back around to what used to work in the past You see, it's a parallel to how the enemy does that. Always wants to try and poke and prod and try to get the reactions out of you that used to work in the past. These, oh my gosh, these human hosts of demon spirit do the same thing. And again, not a coincidence. I mean, so you start to see the parallels in that, and then you recognize all those patterns and the red flags. Like how once you see them, you can't unsee them. But the enemy wants you to unsee them. So you can feel free, fellow warrior, to jump in and add anything I may have missed in the chat, or if watching on the replay, you can always add it on the comment. But that was basically the summary of, because I didn't know how long this kind of a video would be, so we discussed I think we're just going to have to do this one live. And then if any of you have additional red flags that you would like to have exposed and you're not feeling comfortable yet, doing it yourself, and you would like to use me as a vessel, and I will do something like this for you as well. That's what we're here for, to help each other out. Because I know we have a lot of, okay, real quick, I'll get back to that. Okay, the actual creepy message was a few days before the game and 3 weeks before I cut them off. Okay, I was out for a run, and at the time I ran by the house. Oh, that's right. I remember, and the creepy neighbor did send that text. Okay, it says, "I see you running." Oh gosh, that put chills down your spine. Yep, I see you running, and I thought, yeah, when he thought I was working, and why I said I would walk later. Yeah, see. Okay. Yep. So, yeah, that is creepy. Okay. I mean, and that's what it's designed to do. Let's stop and think about it. When they do these little shenanigans like that, everyone, when they pull these shenanigans, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you walking on eggshells. That's really the big thing. They're trying to project their own paranoia and their own, stuff outward all the time, right? So that's a big part of it. When they start pulling those little things and playing that, sending creepy text like that, like "I see you running" or whatever, it's like, so, but they want you to freak out over that. Because, and think of it this way, if someone did that to them, it would freak them out. So they in turn automatically assume that if they do it, it will freak you out. And I know sometimes it does, but we learn how to just go, okay, because then we can see what they're doing. So we learn to not let that, go like hang in there. Okay. We try not to let it stay up there in the mind, but that's creepy as all get out. And a lot of times, when we get further along in our healing process, when they pull that stuff, and see, that's the other thing. These enemies, okay, these narcissistic abusers, they can also sense when we're starting to heal. Stop and think about that for a minute, because as we're starting to go, okay, we've had enough, we're not going to play that game anymore. All right, that's a sign to them. That signals to them that we are going to get away. We're going to heal, and the enemy doesn't want people to heal, like I say often. So that was a big attempt at him trying to get the warrior trauma bonded and to keep our fellow warrior from healing. So, but thank you, by God's grace, that didn't happen. And the full circle. Okay, so, yep, all right. After 8 weeks of no response, it was a weekend, and he pulled out of the driveway at the same time. First, he pulled in front of me, then followed me. Oh my gosh, that's so classic of what they do. Oh man, yes. Oh wow. Okay. Oh, okay. And that's part of why they need your time schedule. They need your time stamp, like, when you're coming home and when you're leaving and things like that, because they want to pull stuff like that. So there's a good example on how to connect that dot. Is when they're always trying to obtain your so-called daily routine or daily schedule, is because they know, remember, they know eventually you're going to go no contact. Okay, they know it. And what they're doing, they're trying to gear up to play these kinds of games, especially towards the end. All right, and then even thereafter sometimes. And it's really childish too when you stop to think about that. And then, so how far did he follow you for? If you don't mind my asking on that one, because man, I'll tell you what, because sometimes they'll do it like just, out of spite. And I'll share something with you I had happen at a workplace to you all. This was a red flag for me that told me that one of the narc managers I had identified was in fact paranoid about something, because I could tell. And I already knew that she herself was somewhat of a sociopath, psychopath type also, because she had that glaze, okay? So the Jezebel. And so what she did, I was a delivery driver, okay, for delivering pizzas for a little while myself, okay? For those who don't know, now you know. And when I pulled up, okay, coming back from a delivery, and this manager happened to be on delivery duty also, pulls up, and I could see it out of my side mirror, and I thought she might pull all the way up. So I waited to open my door, giving her, room to come up. It's like, whatever. But she ended up stopping like way back. I was like, okay, fine. So I opened my door and get out. And the first thing out of her mouth was, were you afraid somebody was following you? And I just looked at her and I said, no, I was waiting to see if you were going to pull up. But that told me where her mind was at, that she's the one paranoid that she's being followed. See, that's how that's how they are. They think they're being followed. Okay. Okay. So how long when he pulled out and followed you on the road, okay, pulled out onto a main street, was a bit ahead, and he was catching up about 1.5 miles down from the light on the street to where you were going to turn. Okay, he was in the right lane trying to pass you. Okay, I was in the left. Okay, and then oh boy. Okay, would turn. Oh my goodness. And there were cars. Okay, all right, let me go back. All right, he was in the right lane trying to pass, and you were in the left. Okay. And you were, and was going to the left turn lane. Okay. Oh, you were going in the left turn lane. And then there were cars in the left lane. You didn't even signal. Suddenly he pulls over 2 lanes and was in the left turn lane right behind me. Oh gosh. Okay, so that you knew for sure. He was not being covert about it at all. Obviously, he wanted you. Okay, that was him trying to get you paranoid for being, that you're being followed. Because what that does is that he's trying to get you to develop the same paranoia that he has. So he's pulling all of these little pranks, that crazy makes, stuff, so that going forward, you would be paranoid that he was following you when he wasn't. That's what that's about. Okay, so now you know. Right, there's another 2 mile. Okay. For another 2 miles, and you pulled out the left turn lane. He had to turn. Well, illegal or not, heck, in this situation, because you had to lose him, right? Exactly. Hey, sometimes it happens. We don't like to do that. I know. And the cars in the left lane, 8 cars or so. Okay, so there were 8 cars or so. It was a red light at the time. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what he was trying to do. He was just trying to get you to be paranoid, so that basically what he was hoping, all right, here's what he was hoping for, is that any time you would leave your house going forward, any time that you would develop a sense of the paranoia. It's kind of like the example I shared with that, ex-coworker who had that mentality. Okay, she's paranoid that she's being followed all the time, and that's how they are. And so your neighbor is paranoid about being followed all the time, wanted to get you to develop that same kind of paranoia. That's exactly why he pulled that. Okay, that's it. And just know, because that's what they do. They got to try to get you paranoid right along with them. It's all about dragging others down with them. Okay, he wants to pull others down and make them just as paranoid and scared, or part of that walking on eggshell thing. That is exactly what he was trying to do. And we're thankful that it didn't work, because you're it's really amazing, isn't it, how you're starting to develop that vigilance and awareness because of all of it. And so this is another way that without them intending to, they help us. It's just really, they end up helping us, and they don't intend to, but we do. After we turn into Sherlock Holmes, if you will, I like that. After we turn into that, and then, as we develop a keener sense of vigilance and awareness, and so that's a good thing. Okay, that's a really good thing. And they don't realize that that's what it does. And I know we don't want to give them credit, like good credit for it, but that is just a silver lining underneath it all, that what we become after the fact. Okay, so trying to make you paranoid at work, right? It worked for a little while, right? Okay, I get it does, and that's the unfortunate truth. It does for a little while, and it depends on what it was they did, also. Okay, but it's very brief, because like you started researching it, and I mean, you had already known from that previous relationship that you had, so you had already had a good foundational understanding of narcissistic abuse and narcissism. And so it was just, that's God, when God was telling you, okay, now it's time for you to you got a little bit of a deeper dive, so to speak, because some of the things that were happening with this neighbor were definitely not necessarily on the worldview level of narcissistic abuse. Okay, it's on the spiritual level. So that's where God brought you here. Okay, he said, okay, because there's a few of us, there's a handful of us. I'm sure there's more. I know there's more of us out here, but I've only come across a few others that actually we know this, and that is a real spiritual battle that's going on. And it always starts with us. And once we learn it, we're like, okay, and God wakes us up and all that stuff, during, and it is a process, like I say often. I mean, it can take many, many years, because like I say, it took God a long time, to shape and mold, through all of that we went through. That was, that's God shaping and molding us into what he had made us to be. So, and he's not done yet, just so you know. Okay, he's not done yet. Yes, sunshine, that is crazy. That is crazy, that because they're out there, and it's an unfortunate truth that they are, and there's more of them than we realize. And like I said earlier, it's just a matter of, when they realize that, and now they do this. I want to go ahead and point something else out. I don't remember how old you said this neighbor was, but I can tell you that the co-worker, like the ex-roommate, was close, approaching 75, and then the ex-co-worker that was like that, she was in her 50s. So because that's how when they, once they've already sold their soul to the Prince of Darkness, once they have already just succumbed to the system of narcissism, and that's it. God turned them over to a reprobate mind. And when that happened, as they age, okay, see, oh my gosh, he didn't even make it to 40. Well, yeah, that neighbor's a goner, because if he's still pulling that crap, yeah, he's a goner. He's working for the devil. All right, he's working for the devil. There is not going to be anything, because he already surpassed his chance to be, he already missed God's call several times. I can tell you that. He already missed it. So he's just going to get worse. Now, remember this, though. Our discussion that we had. I want everyone also to remember, when you're dealing with the neighbor, the one thing, when others start, because in this warrior's case, luckily, and I wouldn't say luckily, this is God's grace, this is how God works through others too, is that there are other people, not just in the neighborhood, but elsewhere, who are already picking up on this, psychopath, okay? And he's been labeled as a bad Christian already. So it's just a matter of time for this psychopath neighbor is going to be forced to move, okay? Because he's going to run out of, right. scary thing. Yeah, that's why I wanted to share that he, that people are already catching on that he's a bad Christian. Now, I mean, when you hear that, you're like, whoa, that's pretty deep. And so that tells you that there's people in the community who are catching on. And so when more people catch on to his horrendous behavior and treatment of others, then he is going to be forced out because he's not going to have any more supply. Okay, he's not going to have any more narcissistic supply. He's not going to get any more emotional reaction. He's not going to have anybody except maybe if he's chatting with somebody in the online world, that'd be about at best. But he is going to be forced to move. So I want everyone, if you are in a situation like that, and you're in your home, and you've been in your home for a long, long time. Okay, and that's just where that's it. And they've only been there for X amount of years, but you start discovering, and everybody else starts discovering, you don't need to worry. It's just a matter of holding steadfast to those boundaries, just steadfast to the boundaries. And then, like you have done, fellow warrior, very good. You've got this on record. You've got your declaration. So if you ever needed it for law enforcement, always, I highly recommend that. I had to do it. Okay, many of us, when you find that you're dealing with a psychopath, we realize it's like God tells us, okay, we need to type up this stuff because we're going to need it. And we did. I ended up having to get a restraining order. Okay, and so you want to keep that in mind, and having that will help. So, yeah. Okay, and scary, yeah, okay, churchgoer, and okay, so okay, another odd part. Okay, nobody specifically told the warrior that it was that the neighbor was on the phone with an ex who also goes to the church. So he also told you that evening the guy at the church was going around telling people he was a bad Christian. Okay. So he literally told me himself, who someone said, oh my gosh. Forgive me for laughing. Okay, so somebody had told this psychopath to his face that he was a bad Christian. And so now this psychopath was telling you that somebody said that about that. Wow. That's just even, okay, that's bizarre. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, sunshine. Yep. Oh yeah, we've all run into those religious narcissistic abusers. Yep, that's right. Out to different church communities, listen to worship regularly, and yep, they do. That's the other thing we watch out for. We learn that a lot of these narcissistic sociopaths and psychopaths can also be pastors. It's an unfortunate truth. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but they do, and it is an unfortunate thing. Not all of them now, mind you. Okay, there are some great ones out there, but there's a good handful or more that unfortunately they're sold to the dark side, but they're trying to, evil plays both sides. I want y'all to remember that. I've said this probably a very early video, and I also talk more about that on Patreon. But anyway, right here, y'all, evil plays both sides. And so what we end up finding out when we get here is that we learn how to use what the enemy dishes out. Okay, like God, when the enemy dishes something out, God's like, okay, you know what, fine. I'm going to take that and raise you one. In other words, God turned that negative into a positive. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. God is not going to use the stuff for deceit. What God does is he takes it and he turns that bad stuff into good. So whatever the bad, it's like what we all have been through, okay, with these narcissistic abusers and narcissistic abuse, what the good that's coming out of it is that we're all coming together and raising awareness and helping others heal and grow. That's the good side. So that's how God takes, okay, that's the bad stuff, and then he turns it around and uses it for the greater good. So we always want to remember that. But evil plays both sides, so it's not going to be a surprise that you would run into some religious narcissistic abusers, because they're out there, unfortunately. Yep. Okay. Yep. It's a full principality. Ah, yes, Judas. Yes. Yep. I'm taking some time to read through the comments here because I don't want to, if there's something that, plain job. Okay. If he was, okay. If your psychopath neighbor had to corner you and try to convince you that he's good and said, but I go to 3 churches, I am tempted to say, well, Hitler got Hitler gave lots of people good paying jobs. What's your point? Hey, that's a good comeback. I mean, really, but that's a good comeback, fellow warrior. Seriously. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of these narcissistic abusers and the sociopaths and psychopaths that are churchgoers, okay, y'all, I know it took a while. I will share with you. It took a while for me even because I had a hard time, okay, because I had always thought, if they were churchgoers and things like that, that they were, decent people and good, just good people worshiping the Lord and stuff. I had that mindset also, and many of them still are. So don't misunderstand. We don't want to get anything twisted here, but we're talking about those narcissistic psychopaths and sociopaths that also parade around trying to profess themselves to be wise, but are full. Okay, remember in Romans where God tells us that's what happened. We start to notice that they are just, they'll use the church as a ploy. Well, I go to church, so yeah, I know, and that is the other thing. They're always trying to prove that they're good people when we know that good people, good people are. They don't have to prove that they're a good person. But these sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissistic abusers have to. They have got to put on the best facade ever, and that's how they lure people in. And that's how cult leaders work, too. They're very, very superficially charming. But see, we don't know it's superficial yet, right? Until we get, until that rug gets pulled out from under us. So, yeah. Obsessively persistent. There you go, sunshine. That's a good way to put it. Really, it is. That is exactly the best way to put it. Yep, obsessively persistent. Yeah, very pushy. Yeah, and there you go, fellow warrior. Just all humor aside. Okay, rather try to grave rock as much. That's it. That's all we got to do. It's just like grave rock. And don't forget though that some of the narcissistic abusers have figured out how to do a superficial grave rock. So if you haven't seen a video on what real grave rocking is, it's down there on the video site, not the live streams, but the video. And it's titled What Grave Rocking Really Is, because there's more of a spiritual component to it. That these narcissistic abusers who are out here trying to use that like no facial expression part of the grave rock, like they're using the physical, the outward tactics of grave rock to try to trick people into thinking that they're an empath. And I discovered that in one of the toxic workplaces, by the way, because I had already spotted a couple of flying monkeys. So I knew there was a narc master. And so it just took over this circle of slaves, right? So, and I noticed that one of them was doing that, like no expression, expressionless face and all of that. And that what part of grave rocking is in a way. But on the inside, there's other things that go along with that had to do with that spiritual energy transfer. And that's something that they cannot copy. They can't mirror spirituality. So there are some more components to that in that video, all right, where I talk about that, because there's some very specific things. It's all about not getting to where that psychopath, sociopath, narcissistic abuser, where they cannot sense, they'll sense your vibe, but they won't be able to sense your energy, okay? It's all about, you learn where the control switch is for your empathy, and you shut it down. Once you shut it down, they can't get nothing. They can't read nothing, except they can sense your vibe, because you got the light, so you're glowing anyway. They're not going to be able to miss that. That's what they were attracted to start with. And so, but when you learn how to control that empathy switch, that's when they get cut off. from our spiritual energy. And that frustrates the heck out of them, by the way, especially when they have the Jezebel. They don't get it. They're like, how did that person know how to do that? So it takes a little while, but we certainly do. It's all that power and authority that Jesus put in us. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The narc. Okay. Okay. So another narc. Okay. You had at work at one time was brought in by another churchgoer. I'm not surprised. He was also manipulated. Oh, he walked around the office like, okay, yep, all day and say, look at me and look at it. See, that's the other thing they do. That's so creepy. It truly is. That's all part of their, yep, crown of thorns. Yep. Yeah, I would highly recommend it for anyone who is at that stage of learning how to get that control of the empathy switch, because that way, I would tell you, because once you figure that out, okay, because everybody's got a unique way of doing it for themselves. All right. So that's why it's going to take you just because what works for me might not work for you and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So everybody can figure it out on their own, how to control that. So that way your psychopath neighbor, if he ever happens to get within a certain distance to try and sense your energy or spiritual energy, once you learn how to control that, like it's going to come like as soon as you see him, boom, you're going to know. And however it is you figured out how to do that, and he won't be able to sense anything. And I would tell you, just if you pay attention, you'll get that sideways confused look, which is the Jezebel, by the way. They get confused. They're like, how can they do that? So you want to, that's just something for you to look out for if it ever comes to that. But seriously, it's all about that, because that shuts them off. Like I said, they'll still get your vibe, but they won't be able to sense your energy, like how you're feeling or anything like that. They won't be able to sense it. Nope. So, okay. Okay, tracks down. If he tracks you down to answer the why I ignored him, I am thinking, oh, okay, you're thinking, why, no need to explain. Well, yeah, there you go. That's it right there. I mean, if he does try to come, anytime you have identified that you're dealing with such a manipulator or a con artist, psychopath, whatever you want to call them, okay, when you're dealing with that, yes, it's not, it's all about the gray rocking, but also with the spiritual gray rocking. And then it's just, we don't owe them an explanation. Okay, that's the bottom line. We learned that. And that, because they know full well what they did, especially come on, he's an adult, right? He knows full well. Even a toddler that pulls stuff like that knows what they're doing, okay? Especially when they're trying to manipulate to get their way. So they know what they're doing. And so it's like having to ask why we're like not talking to them anymore or whatever. There's no need to explain. They know. They already know. They just want to try to trip you up. They want to try to get you engaged in a conversation. They want to try to get you to over-explain, and they want to try to, that way it gives them an opportunity to try and come up with excuses for, and then also to twist things and point the finger back at you. So we always have to, we're not walking on eggshells. We're like, we see what they're trying to pull here, because they want to drag you into hopefully engaging in some reactive abuse. That's really another thing right there too. So we're like, now we do not, survivors do not owe them an explanation for why we no longer are speaking to them or even, acknowledging them or whatever. No, that's right, because they know what they did. Okay, the title of the video, it says it's gray rock. It's either the truth about gray rocking. It'll say gray rock. The truth about the gray rock, something like that. I'd have to go into the other channel and actually look it up myself, but it has the term gray rock in it. And I know it's on a I know the thumbnail has like some colors coming out, like street lights, kind of blurred street lights in the back. and it's a little further down. It's one of the older ones before I got better audio and stuff like that. So anyway, but the content is the most important. And yeah, so if you know what, if you want, I can, after we end this live stream, I can look it up and send it to you in your email and send you the link. Yeah, I'll do that to make it easier to find, because I got more videos that we keep adding, so be easier to help you out that way. But that's that's just basically it. There's a bunch of red flags that and all of us, never beat yourself up. Though we learn not to do that, because once we identify these tiny little red flags like that, getting to know a person, it's a process like anything else, right? But anytime someone comes up to us and just wants to start inviting us to a bunch of cookouts and hasn't even given us a chance to vet them yet, that's the other thing, you all. These narcissistic abusers, especially sociopaths and psychopaths, all right, they oftentimes, remember, this is part of the narc playbook, if you will. And so what they'll do is they often will come at you with something really, really fast. And the reason they do that is that they don't want to give you time to think or even make a decision. It's all part of how they try to overwhelm. So we always want to be on cautious, not eggshells, but always be on the lookout for that, because anytime, all right, for example, in this one toxic workplace where I identified a few Jezebels, which means AKA narcissistic psychopath, all right, and one of them actually killed their own cat. Never mind. Yes, they'll do that. They will kill their own pets, because what it is they have that insatiable need to be good. I mean, it's so horrible how they can stand there and actually get off on watching people suffer. It's like, ew, oh my gosh, that's just, we empaths cannot fathom that at all, but they do. And you're welcome. It's crazy, because they got that internal thing where they got to have some sort of satisfaction, right? And they make something suffer, so they will go and they will kill a pet. Oh yeah, they will. But anyhow, so but they came at, it's like when I first started, then they were like trying to throw a bunch of tasks at me all at one time, that overwhelming. And then they would say things like, it's a little overwhelming, isn't it? I was like, oh, I see right through you people. I was like, oh my gosh. But, anyway, God had me there. I had to learn a few more things and stuff. So, but he delivered me out from under that, thank goodness. So, like he always does. But that's one thing to watch out for, because if they're doing that overwhelming thing, they're trying to take away your self-thinking. Again, that's a big part. So they don't give you any time to think or be able to vet or make a decision. So we always want to pay attention to anyone, especially a neighbor, to, a spouse, whatever, anybody, that if they come at you like that and they're not giving you any time. And just know this, that the enemy's trying to get clever, okay? The enemy's trying to get clever with getting people not to love bomb so much right away. But they eventually will love bomb at some point. They can't help it. Okay, they can't help it. The demon spirits have control of their behaviors because it's got control of their mind. So at some point, the red flags are going to show. We got to be, we're just on alert. We're just vigilance and awareness that God tells us about. And when we have that, then we can pick up on these things a lot quicker. You always want to be mindful of that, because anybody that comes at you, like trying to chase you and tries to move way fast, that's pretty indicative they're just trying to not give you time to think and not giving you time to get to know anything. Because remember, they've got a lot to hide, right? After all, but eventually all comes out. So another thing another red flag. Okay. So this neighbor lived there for over 2.5 years without ever coming to your house to try to introduce. Oh, okay. That's not, to me, that signals that he had already, in the first 2.5 years of being there, he had already kind of like made rounds And so one by one, I think that would be why one of your other neighbors did move away. Yes, now that connect that dot right there, because his sociopathic, psychopathic, because remember everything that he done to you with all the pestering and all of that, he does that to everybody. Okay. So eventually, yeah, just like you woke up to it, some of them did too. So that's what it sounds like. So he was kind of, going down. I don't want to use the term checklist, if you will, but okay. So, all right. Introduce himself. Okay. It was only when you started stopping by once in a while, and you have a couple of things here and there that you both seem to connect on. Let me help you out with that one. You were doing probably the majority of the talking. I mean, I'm just because you know how that goes. Okay, and had a couple of things here and there. Okay, yeah. So my guess is you shared first, and then you're like, oh yeah, I like that too, or something along the line. Okay, you really wasn't home that much. Okay, that would explain. Another why behind why he kept asking what time you would get home, because he obviously was, because you were hardly ever home, and he couldn't get a read on you prior to that. You're chatty Kathy, okay? Well, we're empaths. Empaths, we're natural talkers. Okay, empaths, we are. We're naturally chatty until we identify that. Then that's when we get quiet. When we identify a narcissistic abuser, or a human who's a demon spirit, that's when we know to shut up. That's all part of that gray rock kind of thing. Knowing, I see a demon spirit, I don't say anything. So, or if much, it's just casual talk. I won't even, you don't divulge any personal information, but that would be my guess. Okay. All right. Now it's starting to come into a clearer picture, because they do that. All right. Especially the psychopath. Because all right. So for the first 2.5 years, as he was going down the checklist in the neighborhood, in the town, or whatever, and just slowly but surely others were catching on, obviously, and you hadn't been in the picture at all, but he couldn't get a read on you because he didn't know when you were ever home or not home or whatever, so he was not real sure when to approach you. That would be why. And so he was just like, okay, and then, because empaths are nice people, so we're going to naturally say hi at some point. And that's what he was waiting for, so that he could start to try and draw out information, like what time do you get home, things like that, and trying to see if he could get control of you, basically, because he had already lost control of apparently several others who had caught on. See, that's what they do. It's just like they constantly cycle back around over and over and over and over and over again. And so there you go. Oh, wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of little red flags today. And as always, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Yes, for today, because there's going to be more that comes out. But now I want to go ahead and just let everyone else know you're catching this on the replay. Just always, you can leave your questions in the comments, and I'll get to those as soon as I can, as always. And if you would like to share some additional red flags and things that you missed, but now you see them and you're ready, and because let's see, empath, we are natural, we want to help, and there's a lot of survivors that they're like, well, I don't want to get on camera, I don't want to get on this, that's not my cup of tea, or they don't want to do it, and you would like to use me as a vessel to do another one like this, where I take your testimony and I'll bullet point out things, and you all will always remain anonymous. I will operate with the utmost ethical standards, okay? We understand, because believe me, that circumstance, no, we're not going to reveal any real names at all, okay, fellow warriors? Just know that. I will keep you anonymous, and we'll just discuss the red flag, who it is, whatever, and then I will communicate with you as to how comfortable you are with a specific detail. Like, do you want me to share it, or I can reword it so that it's not, so identifying, but in general. So thank you, fellow warrior, and thank you for sharing your testimony. But that's how that works. If you wanted to, my email is always in the video description. And so I have access to Google Doc and Word and to basically a lot of things tech. So any way that you feel comfortable, sharing it if you're ready. Some survivors are not ready, and that's okay too. But whenever you are and you would like to contribute to the work and raising awareness with all the red flags and others that if you haven't heard us mention or others mention, or that you've experienced, because remember, we all experience the same pattern, but circumstances are going to be a little different. So there's going to be additional red flags here and there that others might experience that others didn't. And that's how it goes. So we want to raise awareness. We want to get all the red flags out there so people can know them all. All right. So that way we're going to spot them quick. And yep, there you go. Yes. Oh. So what would that be, fellow warrior? Yeah. All right. Anyway, we can take this up in email. Something. Oh, okay. Something you were saying about. Okay. Is it okay? Another red flag. Well, see, that's the thing. That's how it goes. When you talk things out, it always helps. And writing things out. That's the other thing, survivors. If you're ready, you have some red flags that you would like to share, and you want to use me as a vessel to get on here and talk about them, like we did in this live. And we'll be sure to include what you're comfortable including. Okay. And again, you will be anonymous. I am not going to reveal your identity for obvious reasons, okay? And so that way we can all continue this awareness and everybody can learn these red flags out there a lot faster. And by doing so, that becomes part of our armor that God gives us with that vigilance and awareness. And one final thought on this so when this psychopath neighbor, when you guys started walking, he would mention something about how he never knew when you were home, but you park in the... See, there you go. What I just said. That's why he didn't approach you before. That's why he did not approach you in the first 2.5 years. Yep. For him to know when to approach you. Bingo. There, we just connected another dot. There you go. That's exactly right. So he admitted it right there. Yep. Makes it so okay. There you go. Yeah. There's your red flag right there. He was trying. Yep. He just told you that you were hard to pinpoint. So that's why he never approached you before you approached him. So, yep. All right. Good catch. Yeah. See, now you'll put that in your memory bank. You won't forget that. Yep. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. And as always, sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching and for your continued support. Until next time, let's show some gratitude to Heavenly Father, and you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen. Yes, we'll continue this.